As we celebrate the 100th anniversary of women fighting for and winning the right to vote, we are so honored to recognize leaders in our community we believe are amazing examples of dedication and integrity. Please join us in celebrating the accomplishments of our 2020 award recipients. The Greater Kansas City Women's Political Caucus is pleased to present Governor Laura Kelly with the Erica Fox Pillar Award. The Pillar Award is given to a remarkable role model and political accomplishment to the benefit of women and women's issues in recognition of her tireless work for the people of Kansas, in particular, her effort to keep us safe and healthy in the midst of a global pandemic.
Hello, I'm Governor Laura Kelly. I regret I'm unable to join your outstanding group of women leaders in person for the 19th annual Torch event. Still, I am grateful to speak about the importance of women being involved in government. But first, I want to express my gratitude to the Greater Kansas City Women's Political Caucus for presenting me with the Erica S. Fox Pillar Award. When I look at the list of previous awardees, I am honored and humbled to be included in such a distinguished group of women. It just so happens we are celebrating the 100th anniversary of passage of the 19th Amendment this year. The centennial celebration serves as a reminder that Kansas has been a leader in the women's rights movement from the very start, including being the first state to hold a referendum on women's suffrage. The referendum on women's suffrage brought the issue directly to the people for a vote. Although it failed the first time, the referendum did lay the groundwork for voting rights in Kansas and across the nation. We didn't stop there. In 1887, the Kansas legislature granted women the right to vote in municipal elections. It took no time for the people of our state to make history when in April of 1887, voters in Argonia elected the first female mayor in the nation, Susanna Salter. In 1912, Kansans approved the Equal Suffrage Amendment to our Constitution, making Kansas the 8th state to grant full suffrage for women. Kansas women went on to play a critical part in passing the National Suffrage Amendment. Kansas women have continued to be trailblazers. Joan Finney was the first female to serve as governor of Kansas in 1991. She was also the first female and longest-serving state treasurer in the state. Congresswoman Sharice Davids made history in 2018 when she was elected to be the first openly LGBTQ and the first Native American to serve in the Kansas congressional delegation. Nancy Kassenbaum was the first woman ever selected to a full term in the U.S. Senate without her husband having previously served in the Senate. During her 3 terms in the Senate, Kassenbaum made history when she became the first woman to chair a major Senate committee. This year, Kansas has continued its tradition of putting exceptional women on the ballot. Barbara Bollier and Michelle De La Isla are vying to be part of Kansas's federal delegation. Upon their victories and Sharice's reelect, half the Kansas delegation will be women. I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say this, but make sure your voice is heard this November. We have the opportunity to shake things up in Washington, Topeka, and Jefferson City, to elect true representatives of the people who will stand up for what is right, who will work to make life better for all, who will make us proud again. I want to offer a sincere thank you to the Women's Political Caucus for giving me this award and the tremendous work you all do to advance women's issues. I stand with all of you, and as long as I'm in office and beyond, I will continue fighting for each and every woman, no matter her age, her race, her religion, or her sexual orientation. Thank you so much, and have a fantastic evening.
The Greater Kansas City Women's Political Caucus is pleased to present Bridget Sanderson with the Torch Award. Bridget is receiving the award in recognition of her dedication to improving our environment. The Torch Award is awarded to a young woman of promise who has been involved with the caucus and committed to its mission and plans to continue her career in public service.
I would like to thank the Greater Kansas City Women's Political Caucus for this award and for all that you do. I truly appreciate this Torch Award. We know that the climate crisis is the biggest problem facing humanity. Environmental degradation affects the poorest and most vulnerable communities as the greatest risk, especially for women and girls. Our gender binary creates inequality for women and girls while providing a disadvantage of access to resources for women. Environmental interventions are not gender neutral. The environment is affected by social, cultural, and economic processes. Climate change will only exacerbate these inequalities. Women are disproportionately affected by climate change through energy access, climate risks, economic inequalities, and climate migration. Women are disproportionately affected by conflict, and if we have reduced resources, that conflict will only increase. Women and girls are twice as likely to die of malnutrition than boys. However, women are often the biggest contributors to climate mitigation. Women are usually caretakers and users of biological resources for consumption and sustenance needs. However, women are not represented equally at the decision-making process. Take a look at agriculture. Women make up about 40% of the agricultural workforce, yet access to land ownership is still in the single digits. Women farmers receive only 5% of all agricultural extension services. Men who currently hold up to 3 times as many public office positions as women typically rely on commercial and antiquated policies with regards to our natural resources. As a society, we are stuck in old ways of thinking. Technology is transforming our world. Our economy is producing more than enough stuff to meet people's needs. Yet the highest priority in our politics, economy, and our culture remains the production and consumption of more stuff, even as producing, consuming, and disposing of all this stuff is polluting our air and water, paving over wild places, and changing our climate. We must change our old ways of thinking, and women must have a seat at the decision-making table. Our most vocal and consistent stewards of the land are Indigenous people who have repeatedly had women in leadership roles. Now, correlation does not imply causation, but I would like to think having more women in charge will help our future on this planet. The role women play in climate mitigation is illustrated in the book Drawdown by Paul Hawken. Drawdown places educating girls in family planning combined as the second highest method of reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. Climate change can feel like an insurmountable global issue. But just as the Greater Kansas City Women's Political Caucus proves, we must start at home. There are many groups and policies in the Kansas City metropolitan area working to protect our environment. We have examples such as Vision Zero and the Complete Street Ordinances that provides more equitable, diverse forms of transportation. Many of the municipalities in Kansas City have put forward 100% renewable energy targets in order to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. There's still so much work to do. We must seek policies that protect our communities most at risk to climate degradation while making sure they don't carry the burden of the current way of living. Remember, women have a place in this world, and we can use that place to protect our planet. As Nobel Peace Prize winner and founder of the Green Belt movement in Kenya, Wangari Maathai said, "I kept stumbling and falling and stumbling and falling, and I searched for the good. Why?" I asked myself. Now, I believe that I was on the right path all along, particularly with the Green Belt movement. But then others told me that I shouldn't have a career, that I shouldn't raise my voice, that women are supposed to have a master, that I needed to be someone else. Finally, I was able to see that if I had a contribution I wanted to make, I must do it despite what others said. That I was okay the way I was, that it was all right to be strong. Please make sure you support policies that protect our future on this planet. Our planet is our greatest resource, and we need to protect it for future generations. I am equally as passionate about climate change mitigation as I am about women's equality. Since climate change is a women's issue, I fortunately get to work within the realm of my 2 greatest passions. While I was sad to relieve my duties as the Vice President for Kansas of the Greater Kansas City Women's Political Caucus last year, I look forward to continually working towards the mission that the caucus upholds in my very own way. Again, I would like to thank the Greater Kansas City Women's Political Caucus for all of your work towards protecting our future and for the Torch Award.
The Greater Kansas City Women's Political Caucus is pleased to present Justice Horn with the Good Guy Award. Justice is receiving the award in recognition of his activism and energy to further a progressive community. The Good Guy Award is presented to a male community leader who has worked for equality for all.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Justice Horn, and I first want to start off by thanking those who made today's 29th annual Torch Award ceremony possible, and the entire Greater Kansas City Women's Political Caucus for having me today. I'm humbled by the opportunity of accepting this year's Good Guy Award, but in all honesty, there's so many of you I look up to, so many of you that inspire me to serve those in our community. With that, I feel that it's my duty to continue to be an ally and support the advancement of women representation in the political arena because, let's be honest, women know how to get the job done. Throughout my childhood, I was shown examples of what a leader looks like through my mother. It was my mom who was taking on corporate America and disrupting the good old boys club. She instilled in me the belief that women could do anything, while also making me aware of the disparities and sexism that women face going into male-dominated fields. But I knew that a superwoman could do that and more. My mom is superwoman to me, and to hundreds of children in the greater Kansas City area, you're superwomen to them. There's a power in representation. Because of the examples shown to me by many of those at the ceremony, when I think of leaders, I think of people like Laura Kelly, Nicole Galloway, Chrissy Dastrup, Sharice Davids, Gwen Grant, and so many more in our community, not merely showing us how a woman leads, but rather how a leader leads. As many of you know, we stand at a pivotal time, not only in our country, but in our state and especially our community. We have the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity of electing women statewide on the Missouri side to finally break the glass ceiling. We also have the opportunity of expanding the representation of women in the Kansas and Missouri state legislature. I believe no matter what political side you're on, that men should not be leading the discussion and implementing policy when it comes to women's rights. And that happened right here in Missouri just last year. But I have faith and hope that there are brighter days ahead of us, and I know that every single one of you will be the light when we get over the hill. Thank you for this award, thank you for this opportunity, and may God be with every single one of you. Thank you.
The Greater Kansas City Women's Political Caucus is pleased to present Melissa Hinnenberger of the Kansas City Star with the Excellence in Media Award. Melissa has been a Pulitzer Prize finalist twice for her editorials related to coverage of women. The Excellence in Media Award is given to a journalist for outstanding reporting on issues important to women and families.
Hi, I'm Melinda Hinnenberger. I'm on the editorial board and a columnist for the Kansas City Star. And I'm here to say thank you so much for this Excellence in Media Award, particularly for writing about women, which I've done for a long, long time. And I just wanted to say one thing, that covering women in politics has changed a lot since I started many, many years ago. For example, happily, there is a lot less focus now on what women candidates or office holders are wearing. You know, that used to just get a ridiculous amount of coverage. And you hear this obnoxious question asked a lot less frequently now. Well, do you think you're held to a different standard as a woman candidate? What a no-win deal that was. Either you said, no, I'm not held to a different standard, in which case you weren't telling the truth, or yes, I am, and you come off as whining. So, but I also thought I would talk a little bit about some things that have not changed as much as I wish they had, and how the fact that women are still so underrepresented in government means that our issues are less attended to in government and just in public opinion. And I don't just mean so-called women's issues. And I say so-called because abortion and birth control and the wage gap and parental family leave, those are issues that affect everybody. But I mean, something like criminal justice reform, which I'm very interested in. We really, when we talk about criminal justice reform, that has mainly focused on men wrongly convicted of murder and men serving overly long terms for drug offenses. And it's absolutely right that we focus on those things, but not to the exclusion of the different situations that women often face. And I first started seeing this when I was just a baby reporter in Texas covering Texas prisons. And the more time I spent, we had a fair amount of access to the prisons. There was only one women's prison. And the more I heard of the women's stories there, the more I saw that most of those women had no business being in prison. They really were by and large there because they'd gotten involved with the wrong guy. And one of the women there, who I have thought about a lot over the years, was a woman named Alfredia Dickerson, whose trial I had actually wandered into by accident when I was filling in for a colleague covering Dallas County courts. And she was on trial for stealing about $100 from the government for underreporting the work she was doing, so that she got $100 more in food stamps than she should have gotten. And it was her third such offense, and so the jury, because of sentencing guidelines, had no choice but to sentence her to a minimum of 25 years in prison. And the jury decided to give her 25 years and 1 day to send a message. She testified, of course, that she was just trying to feed her kids, and the jury wasn't having any of it. So, message received. Her children grew up without her. I looked her up a few years ago. She ended up serving almost the entire 25 years. And, who does that serve? Does that serve Texas? Does that serve any of us? Does it serve her family? And, the system has not changed that much, unfortunately. Right before COVID, I attended a couple of women's group sessions at the Kansas, the women's prison in Topeka. And the stories I heard there were very much like the ones I'd heard 30 years earlier, I'm sorry to say. And I thought that I would just tell you a couple of stories of women in the criminal justice system that would give you an idea of how the focus needs to change. One is a young woman I've written about several times over the last year, and I'm going to still be writing about. Her name is Sarah Gonzalez McGlynn. And she killed her abuser at the age of 19. It was a very gory crime, and the blood and the guts were really all that was focused on at her trial in 2015. She was cast as someone, the prosecutor, Charles Branson in Lawrence, Kansas, said that she killed for fun, she killed for entertainment. It did not even come up that she had been raped 3 times a week and was essentially being held in sexual bondage by this man who was 52 years old. Her own attorney did not really explain that the 25-year plea deal that she was offered, because he thought she'd never be found guilty, and so she got a hard 50. Sarah Gonzalez McGlynn will be out, if she doesn't get a new trial, she'll be there till she's 70 at a minimum. And this is the kind of thing that happens over and over and over. There's another woman who I'm in the process of writing about right now, Natasha Hodge, who killed her abuser, a man who had hit her with brass knuckles, broken beer bottles over her head, broken bones, burned cigarettes out regularly on her skin. The police called to her home over and over and over and over. And after she finally killed him, And she told me she's not sorry because she has no doubt that he would have killed her. She got off lightly, the system believes, because she's serving only 15 years in Topeka. Her public defender told her to take the 15 years and be glad and be grateful because she could very well have gotten a 50-year term like Sarah's. And you know what? He was probably right. So I really would like us to focus on these issues that we still haven't come to terms with. Why are women still being sent to prison for these long, long terms for killing their abusers when, on an average, women serve many more years for killing a man they were in a relationship with than the other way around? And I asked Governor Laura Kelly about that recently, and she said, you know, I know you're right. I know we really want to do something about that. We were thinking about doing that, and then COVID. And this is not a partisan issue at all. And I think that one thing that would help someone like Laura Kelly, who is interested in addressing this, would be having many more women in the State House in Topeka. So with those not cheerful stories, but very important, I think, stories, I just thank you so much for the work that your group does and for your support of what we do at a time when not just the free press, but facts themselves really are under attack. So thank you ever so much.
The Greater Kansas City Women's Political Caucus is pleased to present Megan Fredrickson Pierre with Legal Aid of Western Missouri with the Sherry Cheney Community Service Award. This award recognizes outstanding accomplishment and representation of the power of women through community service. Megan has been selected for her work providing legal services in the municipal court unit to those least able to afford it.
Hi, I'm Megan Pierre. I am an attorney at Legal Aid of Western Missouri, and I am honored today to accept the Sherry Cheney Community Service Award. Receiving an award named after such an extraordinary activist is an honor that I don't take lightly. Sherry believed, as do I, that everyone, no matter who they were, deserved a middle-class life. It is through legal representation of those who have little to nothing that I make my contribution to Sherry's mission. A conviction in the legal system, no matter how petty or small it may seem to some, can oftentimes mean the difference between housing and homelessness, between a good-paying job and unemployment, between the ability to obtain financial aid for higher education and having no means to access schooling, and not the least important, between liberty and incarceration. In this day and age, having access to competent legal representation should be more important than ever, yet it is unfortunately not a right that is afforded to everyone. Therefore, it is through legal representation that I strive to make my contribution to Sherry's mission, so that everyone who seeks to obtain that middle-class life can be free and clear of legal barriers standing in their way. I would like to thank the Greater Kansas City Women's Political Caucus for this award, my husband and family for always supporting my career, my employer for giving me the necessary tools to further my mission, and my clients for placing their trust in me and allowing me the privilege of representing them. Thank you.
The Greater Kansas City Women's Political Caucus is pleased to present the Honorable Alicia Kennedy, candidate for Missouri Lieutenant Governor, with the Betty Ann McCaskill You Go Girl Award. The award is in recognition of her independent thinking and voice. The Betty Ann McCaskill You Go Girl Award was named in honor of Betty Ann McCaskill, the first woman elected to the Columbia City Council and longtime Greater Kansas City Women's Political Caucus member. Betty Ann McCaskill inspired and encouraged her daughter, Senator Claire McCaskill, without reserve and campaigned alongside her throughout Missouri. This award is given to women who are firecrackers in their own right and support other women tirelessly.
Hello, My name is Alicia Kennedy, and I am the Democratic nominee for Missouri Lieutenant Governor. And I'm extremely honored to be considered for this award because of all the strong women that have come before me that have definitely paved the way for this opportunity. When I think about Senator Claire McCaskill, who has received this award that was named in honor of her mother, those are some pretty big shoes to fill. As a candidate running statewide office, of course, I sought her counsel at the beginning of this journey to gain some understanding about what to expect. And what she told me to expect was it was going to be a lot of hard work and it was going to be lonely at times. Well, that's what leadership is like often, because sometimes you have to say what needs to be said because it needs to be said. But also, as an elected official and politician, it comes with a price. We talked about that too. So, as I stand on the shoulders of very strong women, I stand informed and ready to engage others to come alongside me so that we can make real change. It's important that we use our voice to be impactful, not to be a contrarian, because in these times, people are looking for effective leadership. We have to make sure that we're focused on the main thing and keep the main thing the main thing. Right now, in this hour, we're celebrating 100 years of women having the right to vote. But that's not the case for all women. There were women who were along with the fight in the beginning that did not benefit from the experience till many years later. Some of those are my mentors and role models, like Fannie Lou Hamer and the likes thereof, that kept their hands to the plow and worked just steadily to make sure we were doing things the right way. But one thing I've learned about studying history is that women are effective leaders because we're willing to do the right thing, even when it's not popular. So we're having this conversation today around equity and uplifting women's voices. Sometimes we've had to allow others to go ahead while we uplift and pull from behind. But today we stand side by side and collectively are willing to work on things that matter to all Missourians. When we talk about the income inequality that families are facing, whether they're in Kansas City or rural Missouri, when we're talking about education outcomes and impact and the disparities about race and income, we're willing to do that work. We're rolling up our sleeves. We're putting together programming, advocacy, and legislation to make impact. When we talk about criminal justice reform, when we talk about police brutality, we are leading in these conversations as women, as social change agents, because it's not about the rhetoric. We appreciate the organization of Black Lives Matter, but we've been talking about Black lives making a difference since before they showed up. We've been talking about investing in communities before they started saying defund the police. And we have to talk about why these rhetoric statements, while they're popular today, we have to make sure we focus on the main things. The main thing is about creating opportunity across the board. The main thing is making sure that there's fairness and accessibility across the board. The main thing is that we're being intentional in investing in the root causes of violence and investing in stabilizing neighborhoods and families. Those are the main things, whatever label you want to put on it. And we have to remain focused on those things, be resolute in our resolve on those things, and be committed to supporting leadership who are going to do things the right way on things that matter to all Missourians. And so when we talk about where we are today and the opportunities that are in front of us, we have a chance in about 50 days or so from today, in a few days from now, to elect the next president of the United States. That is a huge thing. But we also have the opportunity to elect the next governor, next lieutenant governor, next prosecuting attorney, next legislator, next state senator, next committee person. And whatever level of government that we're at, it's always good to see confident and competent women standing ready to fill in those positions. It's always good to see amazing women pushing us along, saying you can do it and you go, girl. And so while I am honored to be considered for this award and be recognized for my strong advocacy, I am extremely thankful for those women who have pushed me, prodded me, and encouraged me along the way so that I can remain effective and steadfast in what matters. So thank you all so much, and I look forward to celebrating with you all.
The Greater Kansas City Women's Political Caucus is pleased to present Congresswoman Sharice Davids with the Harriet Woods Guardian of the Flame Award. And award given to those who keep the fire of freedom and justice burning for women in the greater Kansas City area. In the memorial service eulogy for Governor Mel Carnahan, his daughter, former Missouri Secretary of State Robin Carnahan, recalled her father's daily admonition of keeping wood on the fire on cold winter mornings on their family's farm. "Dad, I promise we won't let the fire go out," she said, holding back tears. This sentiment inspired the caucus to create the Guardian of the Flame Award.
Hi everyone, Rep. Sharice Davids here. I am so honored to be accepting the Guardian of the Flame Award today. With the help of amazing organizations like the Greater Kansas City Women's Political Caucus, we made history in the 2018 midterms. From electing Laura Kelly to the governor's office, me to Congress, to electing strong Democrats across the state, it was a big year for Democrats in Kansas. And over the past 2 years, we've seen the progress that we can make with strong Democrats in office. I am proud to have worked alongside my colleagues in the House to pass dozens of bills to lower the cost of health care and stop drug companies from gouging Kansans. I introduced my own legislation to help end surprise medical billing, because the last thing Kansas families need after they receive care is a bill that they didn't see coming. We passed sweeping anti-corruption legislation to limit the influence of money in politics. We worked to invest in our public schools and revitalize our nation's crumbling infrastructure. And we've been a check on this administration, something that's needed now more than ever. But if we want all the accomplishments of the House made this Congress to actually become law, we need to hold the House, flip the Senate, and send Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to the White House. This truly is the most consequential election of our lifetimes. We are in the middle of multiple national crises, from a pandemic that's threatening the health and economic security of our families, to an important and long overdue conversation about systemic racism and injustice in this country. And meanwhile, we have a president that is more focused on stopping folks from voting than he is stopping the coronavirus. We need leaders in all levels of government to fight for our families, our workers, our small businesses, and to deliver progress on the real issues that we're facing. Luckily, we have an incredibly strong bench of candidates that are running, that are committed to doing just that. And as you know, this year, we have an all-female Democratic slate of candidates for the federal offices in Kansas. This is a history-making thing. I think about the girls that will see themselves represented in the folks running for office this time around. And I'm looking forward to watching them run for office, because they will see that this is the rule rather than the exception now. The path to victory, though, is not going to be an easy one. I know our campaign might look a little bit different, like so many other campaigns look different. And I know so many of you are working so hard, whether we're getting on the phones, texting folks, or otherwise reaching out to people. We have got to make sure that we continue to build on the grassroots momentum that we saw started last cycle, that we're going to continue into 2020. Because this election is about taking our democracy back. And it's all hands on deck. I know you know that. I know you know what it took to make history in 2018, and you're going to do the same in 2020. I know I'm going to do the same. I am so excited to work with you all as we keep pushing for progress and keep fighting to make sure that we've got a democracy that works for everyone. So thank you again for this honor. I cannot tell you how grateful I am for the work that you all are doing, and I'm looking forward to continuing to being in this fight with you all. Have a good night.
Thank you all for your support of the Greater Kansas City Women's Political Caucus and our endorsed candidates. Please donate what you can to our 2020 Torch Fund. You can make a difference, but it takes everyone doing all that they can and getting out the vote. During these difficult times, please stay safe, but make sure you vote. Let's look forward to a healthy new year with new leadership. Rest in power. Justice Ginsburg.